Hi everybody, we're in Job chapter 16, and this is where Job is finally gotten to the point when he feels like God is just after him. So I'm going to read that 16 verse 7 and following. It goes like this. And God, you have ground me down and devastated my family. As if to prove I have sinned, you reduced me to skin and bones. My gaunt flesh testifies against me. God hates me and angrily tears me apart. He snaps his teeth at me and pierces me with his eyes. People jeer and laugh at me. They slap my cheek in contempt. A mob gathers against me. God has handed me over to sinners. He has tossed me into the hands of the wicked. Well, one of the things that we can identify here is an awful lot like Jesus. And in fact, in Isaiah chapter 53, Isaiah makes this prediction about what the Messiah will go through, what he's like. And it sure sounds a lot like what Job went through. And it goes like this. But it was the Lord's good plan to crush him and cause him grief. Yet when his life is made an offering for sin, he will have many descendants. He will enjoy a long life, and the Lord's good plan will prosper in his hands. When he sees all that is accomplished by his anguish, he will be satisfied. And because of his experience, my righteous servant will make it possible for many to be counted righteous, for he will bear all their sins. So here, especially in this verse, it was God's good plan to have him, to crush him and cause him grief. Well, that was also true for Job. It was God's good plan for him to have grief, but it wasn't based for Job on his sin. He was sin, or he didn't have any sin, and that was, remember, the argument at the beginning was that Job was without sin. And the devil, who was an angel then, said, well, he only follows you and believes in you because you're so good to him. And so God said, okay, we'll take away his things and see what happens then. But Job never does leave God and is always steadfast. And so is Jesus, of course. It's interesting that we've been studying that Jesus was predicted. The Messiah was predicted to suffer and die, and yet when Jesus told the people over and over again that he would suffer and die, his disciples and others, none of them thought that was the way a Messiah should be. And that's true pretty much for all of us. We don't know how God works, and if you're going to sit around and figure, well, I got this disease because I did something like this, or God's after me, or I've been blessed because I've been such a good person, you're on the wrong track, because you have no idea how God's working and why. And one of the biggest points of the book of Job is that we don't know how God's working and why he's working, and we cannot know why God's doing what God's doing, but we can know that God has a plan and that he has his best plan is for us and for the gospel. So if you're into something bad's happening to you today, my suggestion is that you just realize that that's in God's hands, that you can't figure out why it's happening, but it is happening. But also know that God is with you, God cares for you, God will bless you, even in the midst of your trouble and your pain and your sorrow. Because that's the thing he does promise, that he will never leave us and will always be with us. So there you go. There's a lesson in Job. Poor guy. Didn't do anything to deserve any of this, but ended up getting a pretty bad deal. But we'll find out that all that gets restored to him, as it will also to us one day in the resurrection. God bless and have a great Monday. Bye.